I always told myself, man, if I ever made it into this industry, I want to be able to pay it forward. And I think teaching is one of those things that has given me that opportunity.
Presented by Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. You're listening to Lights, Camera, Learn. Welcome to another episode of Lights, Camera, Learn. Our guest today is Kevin John. He's a reporter with ABC 10 here in Sacramento. Kevin, welcome.
Welcome, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
So you and I worked at least in the same building at ABC 10 and had a few times to at least chat once in a while, but we never really got a chance to talk at depth. So here's our opportunity, right?
Yeah, most of the time we were talking was like going through the, the what is it, cafeteria room or what have you.
Down the long hall.
Down the long hall. So we never had a chance to sit and connect. So I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here. So I want to start out, obviously before you got to be a sports reporter, you did several different things. You tried acting, I think you were a reality TV host and you did a lot of entertainment things. So at what point did you say, nope, I'm going to be in journalism, I'm going to be a sports reporter?
I think when I got to the point where I was like, all of these other things that I'm trying have not manifested or come to fruition.
Yeah.
Because the thing about me, Aaron, I was never one of those people coming out of undergrad who knew what I wanted to do with my life. Some people go off to undergrad, they know exactly what they want to do. They know what they're going to major in, how they're going to get there, what internship they're going to get. I was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So that kind of carried on with me in my adult life. After undergrad, I moved to LA pursuing entertainment, like you said. Did that for about 10, 11 years. I had some highs and I had some lows.
What were some of the highs?
Oh, some of the highs, booking commercials, booking short films.
Okay.
Booking gigs that actually paid really good money.
Yeah.
Because as a starving artist out there, anytime your agent calls you and says, hey, I just want to let you know you booked such and such, the best feeling in the world.
Sure.
It literally, I cannot describe the feeling of seeing your agents calling you, saying you booked a commercial, or you booked a film, or you booked this. So those were the highs.
Right.
The problem is, Aaron, those calls did not come very often.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that was a daily occurrence, weekly occurrence, or even monthly occurrence. So it was very uneven. It was, it wasn't steady.
Yeah.
It wasn't secure. And that's why I say you reach some really good highs. There's times you're doing films and you look over or doing gigs and you look over and you see, oh, I'm in the same space as Quentin Tarantino and this person and that person. Or you're on red carpets hosting and things of that sort. And then it's that, there's times when you're sitting in your studio apartment eating top ramen, like, oh man, this is a rough.
And this is not college eating top ramen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is me as a 30-year-old man in his studio apartment in LA eating top ramen, trying to figure out where my life is going, where I'm headed, and things of that sort. So to answer your question, like I enjoyed. And I don't even have time to get into all the careers, everything that I've done, all the reality shows that I've been in. That was another high too, a reality show that I did. But, it's one of those things, Aaron, you get to a point where you realize, okay, how much longer can I live this starving artist lifestyle? And I think once I turned 30 and I'd been out in LA, about 10 years, 11 years, when I started realizing, okay, maybe this is not going to work out for me. But what can I still do? And around that time, I started hosting for an online network, AfterBuzz TV, forever indebted to them.
Yeah.
They gave me an opportunity. And when I was hosting there, I was doing entertainment hosting. So it was like I was doing red carpet events, movie premieres, all of that stuff. That's what kind of planted that seed of broadcast journalism in my mind.
Yeah.
And then they opened up a sports show at that division. I started hosting that. Put together a reel. Now, by the way, I was doing all this for free. I wasn't paid for any of this.
Really?
I was doing it all for free.
Oh, boy.
So never underestimate the value of free work.
Mm-hmm.
Doing all that for free, put together a reel, sent my reel out to like 600 stations, heard back from 3, and then got my first job. So that's like the very short story on how I got into broadcast.
So, but at one point, you wanted to be a baseball player, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So where in your life did you go, oh, well, that isn't going to happen?
Probably when I was in the 7th grade and realized I could not
pretty early.
hit a 40-mile-per-hour changeup coming right down the plate.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I've always loved sports.
Yeah.
Love sports. Obviously, it's what I cover now.
Right.
And looking at me, you're like, oh, Kevin, 6'1" in black, definitely athletic. Nope. That's where looks are deceiving.
Okay.
Now, the sport I was decent at was track and field. I used to run hurdles.
Yeah.
And I even used to coach hurdles. I was a high school track coach when I lived in LA. But, you know, the sports I really love, football, basketball, baseball, I wasn't the best at those. And you kind of realize, and I think the good news, Aaron, is I realized at an early age, I would not become a professional athlete. This wasn't even going to pay my way through college. I wasn't even going to get a scholarship. Because I think if I had been really good in high school and was able to get a scholarship, that's probably all I would have been thinking about is, I got to be a professional athlete. So it was kind of good that I saw early on that that wasn't an avenue or career choice for me. So then I can start to apply myself elsewhere.
So then when you ended up at Morehouse, so how did that happen? Because there's a lot of places you probably could have gone, but that's what you chose. Yeah.
So I did a college tour, and I did an HBCU college tour. For those who don't know, HBCU, Historically Black College University. So I did a tour of those when I was a senior in high school. So I visited Howard University, Morgan State, Hampton, Virginia Union, Morehouse, Spelman's an all-girls school, but we still toured there. Clark Atlanta University, and everywhere in between Dillard and New Orleans.
Well, you did a lot of them anyway.
It was a lot that I went to.
Yeah.
And I knew that I enjoyed the culture of HB, especially being from Stockton.
Yeah.
I knew I kind of wanted to get out somewhere and experience culture and experience something new. So I knew early on I probably wasn't going to stay in the state of California to go to college, that I wanted to travel and get away. And so with all these schools I applied to, Morehouse was the only school that gave me a full ride scholarship.
Really?
A full ride scholarship.
That would be a big deciding point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And at this time, I have a single mom. So she's like, you're going where the money is at. Like that was a no-brainer. So when Morehouse offered me the presidential scholarship, I didn't even have to blink to know, okay, that's where I'm going to school.
Yeah. So what did you study, major in?
That's a funny question, Aaron. So back to, like I said, in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Right.
I switched my major probably around 10 times in the first 2 weeks that I was at school. Really? I mean, it was all because I just did not know what I wanted to do. So I knew coming out of my senior year in high school, I did theater for the first time.
Okay.
And I was in a play. And the drama teacher really encouraged me. So they're like, Kevin, you got something special there. So I kind of knew going off to school that I enjoyed performing arts. But most people will discourage you from being a performing arts major.
Yep.
Like drama, any of that sort, because of obviously, what's the job outlook like that? What's the earning potential? All those other things. People will usually tell you to steer away from fine arts degrees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that was what I enjoyed. And my mother too, she was, was an academic her whole life, an educator, an administrator and whatnot. And while I do want to say she has always supported and encouraged me to kind of go after what I wanted, I'm not going to sit her and act like she was super proud when I told her, hey, I'm thinking about doing drama and majoring in drama.
Yeah, what was that conversation like?
It was kind of difficult because, she was always like, well, Kevin, you don't have to have a drama degree to be an actor. Which she's right. Yeah. Look at all the actors. Look at everybody not everybody has a degree in drama. Some actors don't even have degrees at all.
Yeah.
So, she was right in saying that, like, that's not what you need in order to do what you want to do. It's not like you have to go to med school to become a doctor. Right. Go to law school to become an attorney. There is no quote unquote prerequisite to be a Hollywood actor or anything in there. So it was difficult because I did try to switch my major around several times. I went business, I went psychology, I went English. I did all kinds of things. And then I realized, Aaron, I was like, man, I don't really enjoy my econ classes, or I don't enjoy.
Yeah, I think you got to be wired a different way for that.
Exactly. Yeah. You really do. And it was one of the things, like eventually my advisor was like, Kevin, this was my sophomore year. My advisor was like, Kevin, if your scholarship covers you for 4 years, you have to pick a major and declare it. Otherwise, you're going to be here 5-6 years if you keep switching your major. Yeah. So at that time, I just had to pick one. And since I had already taken a few drama classes as electives, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to get it in drama because that's what I enjoy, performing arts. It's what I want to do. And, much to the disagreement of others, or, I don't want to say disdain of others, but, some people were not excited about that. Yeah. That I was choosing. But at that point, Aaron, that was what I enjoyed doing. That's what I wanted to do. And that's what I ended up majoring in there.
Yeah. Do you ever wish that your career would have taken that more that direction in drama and theater? And I know you did some of that initially, and it was hard. But do you ever wish you would have really kind of stuck with it and said, "Nope, I'm going to keep eating top ramen. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to just stay with it."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say I was watching the Oscars the other day because
Yeah.
it was obviously on our station, ABC
Yep.
10. You know, and I'm seeing people like Ryan Coogler, who went to Sac State,
Yeah.
a prominent film director,
Yeah.
Michael B. Jordan, all these guys. And I'm not going to lie, there were times I was thinking, man, if I had stuck with it, not to say I would be up on stage winning an
Sure.
Oscar, of course, but you know, yeah, there are times, Aaron, I do reflect when I watch like a TV show or I watch something. I'm like, oh man, that script would have been perfect for me, or
Yeah.
that character would have been perfect for me, or this. So there are a lot of times I do reflect
Yeah.
back on and think like, you know, what if I did stick with it? What if I continued living in that studio apartment with barely any furniture, eating top ramen
Right.
every night, and struggling to make it what could have been.
Yeah.
But I try not to look back on the past because I truly believe everything happens for a reason, your journey, your chapter. And who's not to say that I won't get involved in theater? You know, I've
Yeah.
always, you know, as if I don't do enough things already.
Right. Right.
You know, there's plays that come through Sacramento, and I think to myself, I'd love to audition for that play, or I'd love to do that. So
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen the last of Kevin the actor.
I bet we haven't.
I'll say that much.
Okay. So once you start on your journalism career, let's see, you worked in Texas, you worked in Arkansas, then here. What was that journey like, and what did you learn working in each one of those markets?
I learned the value of hard work.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I mean, and granted, I learned the value of hard work before getting
Sure.
into it because I would not, but
Yeah.
you truly understand, you know, when you get your first job in journalism, for broadcast journalism, you're not going because of the paycheck.
Yeah.
You're not going because of the glitz and the glam. You're going to work hard, bust your butt so you can get to where you're at. My first job in journalism was Little Rock, Arkansas. I was working at a station. I was making $38,000 a year, which actually in Arkansas is not that bad.
No, that's not bad.
You know,
Even today, almost.
even today, yeah, because this was over 10 years ago when I
Sure.
got that job.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it wasn't that bad at that time in Arkansas. Actually, it was a lot more than I was making as a struggling actor in LA
Yeah.
at the time.
Yep.
But the thing is, Aaron, is I applied to every station across the nation, literally 200 plus stations.
bet.
Sit in my reel, got so many rejection after rejection after rejection. I even got, I was flown out to Victoria, Texas for a job for a weekend sports anchor there. Victoria, for people that don't know, there's around 215 DMAs across the nation
Yeah.
as far as markets. Victoria has to be one of the five or
Probably.
six. I mean, it's like 210.
Yeah.
And I remember they flew me out there for the job, and I did not end up getting it. And I just remember, Aaron, at that time, how discouraged I was because I'm like, okay, if I got rejected from one of the lowest stations out there, where do I go from here? You know, so I just remember being really discouraged. So fortunately, there was a station in Little Rock, Arkansas that took a chance on me, gave me an opportunity.
And that was a bigger market, obviously, than Victoria.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's a little confusing. So the station I worked at
Uh-huh.
in Little Rock, Arkansas, technically it wasn't a local station there.
Oh, okay.
It was actually, it was an operation. It was called Media Gateway, INN, Independent News Network. And what they did there was we anchored and produced news on our studio there, on our set there, for smaller news stations
Okay.
across the southeastern region. So our clients were like Alexandria, Louisiana,
Yeah.
Gainesville, Florida, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Elmira, New York. So Salisbury, Maryland. So there were all of these small markets that couldn't afford studios. So we would produce and anchor all their news from Little Rock in all of these small
Okay.
markets. So, you know, and even, you know, one of the stations I did was Hattiesburg or Meridian, Mississippi. So I would have to go back to Mississippi a lot. I always had a stint there, but I would have to go back and forth to Mississippi to do stories out there
Yeah.
and whatnot. But so that was kind of the operation, but it was the only place that would give me an opportunity.
Yeah.
So I started off there, and it really just, you know, it really taught me to work hard, go above and beyond. I was only paid for 8 hours a day, but I probably worked 15 hours a day.
I bet you did.
Because
Yeah.
I wanted to know the stories that I was working on. And plus, since I had responsible for multiple markets, I had to know what was going on in each market. Because I had to tailor each sportscast to that specific
Yeah.
market. We did probably like 8 to 9 newscasts a day.
So
for
you had
each
to know the
respective market.
teams, the community, the
Absolutely.
players, and all of those.
Everything.
Oh man, that's a
the
lot.
teams, the communities, the SIDs, and
Yeah.
all of those markets. So it taught me how to create relationships with people.
Sure.
Because I had to have relationships with so many different people in so many different markets. It also taught me how to manage my time. It taught me how to be organized. And it just taught me how to work hard.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't at that job for the paycheck. I was there to work hard because it gave me an opportunity and to learn about this business and everything else. And I enjoyed my time that was there.
So then how did you end up in Sacramento?
So from that stint there, I got a job at Tyler, Texas, which was a Texas station.
One. Yeah. Okay.
So I was in Tyler for a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
And that was a great opportunity. Same thing, you know. I learned humidity. That's another thing I learned working in all these southern states, Arkansas, Texas, Mississippi, where have you.
Yeah.
So but it was something else where I just learned the importance of establishing good relationships, being kind, and all of that stuff. And I was there for a little over 2 years, and then I know that there's a Tegna station in Sacramento. I saw that there was an opening there. Funny enough, it wasn't a sports opening. It was an opening.
That's right, because you didn't start out in sports.
Exactly.
I was there for a bit before you got there, and you were doing more like not necessarily entertainment, more community.
Exactly.
Types of stories, right? Yeah.
I was doing news stories, lifestyle stories. I was doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then I didn't take on sports full time until, 2021, when our last sports person went to our Tegna station in Phoenix.
Yep.
And then I came in the sports full time then.
Yeah.
So I took the opportunity in Tyler. So I'd applied for the job in Sacramento. I think at the time it was a weekend morning anchor or something.
Okay.
So so I was like, sure. You know, what's I always think about casting a wide net and just seeing what happens. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Especially because sports jobs in this business are far and few between. There's not as many sports jobs as there are news jobs, or when it comes to on air.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is a unique opportunity. So I applied, sent my reel, and then shout out to Sam Cohen, because she was the one who hired me at the time. So
she's the news director at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm forever indebted to Sam Cohen because she gave me my opportunity in Sacramento. Just like I'm forever indebted to Jennifer Dodd, who gave me my opportunity in Tyler, Texas. Like I'm indebted to Chad and Jeff in Little Rock, Arkansas. Gave me my opportunity. I never forget those individuals who gave me an opportunity, because they're part of my journey and I wouldn't be here without them. So anyway, Sam was the news director, so she flew me out to the station. I did a station tour, read, and it was funny because it took I didn't think I got the job, because it took 3 weeks to almost a month until I heard back from her.
Really?
And I heard from Jessie Kane, because she was there. Shout out to Jessie Kane, because she also hosted me. And then Risa, I think, was the last person I interviewed with when I was out there. So shout out to Risa, our fearless GM at ABC 10. But so I had to, I'm going back and forth with, I think it was Risa or Jessie I'd emailed and saying, hey, thanks for everything. And I was like, I haven't heard anything or whatnot. And then Sam did call me a month later and was like, hey, Kevin, we want to offer you the opportunity to come here. And I was super excited. And that's how I got to Sacramento.
Well, in some respects, it was a bit of coming home since you grew up in Stockton. So probably that helped you. I mean, you probably felt really good about that, even more so than if you hadn't done that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Sacramento is my home market. Yeah. I mean, even though I'm not from Sacramento, I'm from Stockton, which is part of the DMA.
Yeah.
Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto. So it was great to come back into the market that I grew up in.
Yeah.
So, it was a homecoming of sorts, because I'm like, and for my parents.
I'm sure.
All throughout my life, I was traveling around, going to different states, living from going to undergrad in Georgia to LA to Arkansas to Texas, Mississippi, Florida, a stint I had there.
Yeah.
So it was, my parents were just overjoyed, like, oh my goodness. After 20 years moving all around, our Kevin is coming back home.
Yeah.
So it was really exciting for them. And my family to be able to come back to Northern California.
I bet. So what does a typical day look like for you now? Is there a typical day?
There's never a typical day. Every day is different.
Yeah.
So in a day like today, for example, I'll come into the station, I'll pre-record my 6 p.m. sports class, I'll go out and shoot a feature story on a track team that just established a new record, a high school track team. And then we also have the Stockton Kings hosting a playoff game tonight.
Yeah.
Kings are playing tonight, so then I'll also have to cover those events. and then do my 11 o'clock sportscast in the studio. And then, of course, in between, figure out the schedule for next week and, what I'm doing tomorrow and things of that sort. So it's always something different. Like the day before, Monday I'm at Golden One Center for March Madness covering that.
Yeah.
And then we have A's opening night on Friday. So there's always something different going on, but that's the challenge of this job. You have to know and be in the know of everything. Yeah. And you have to try to schedule everything so you can set up everything to do interviews, to get your stories, to credential yourself for games. So there's so many things that are obviously going on day to day. It's never the same thing any day.
Oh, I can't imagine. So I think what's different the way that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but for the most part, news reporters either have to come up with a pitch and they're pitching stories, whereas you've got stuff going on no matter what that you can just jump into, right?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always sporting events that are going on, always things, whether the Kings are playing, whether Sac State is playing, UC Davis is playing, the A's, so there's always those things that are going to be happening regardless. Yeah. But I do also pitch stories as well, like the story I'm working on today about this track team. So there's always stories I'm out there looking for. There's always, because people do email me and say, hey, Kevin, I don't know if you caught wind, but Delta College's women's basketball team just won their first state championship ever, or this or that. So it's my job to be aware of everything that is going on. And we serve a wide DMA, which is challenging because I have to know about high schools and colleges in Turlock, in Modesto, in Fairfield, in El Dorado County, in Yuba City, Marysville,
all the way out to Lake Tahoe.
Yeah. So I have to be in the know of high school sports there, college sports there, all of that stuff, because we cover a very vast area, even further south, like Sonora, Escalon, Ripon, Foothills, all of these places. I have to know what's going on because we serve those areas.
Yeah.
So it's my job to find those cool stories out there, whether it's in Oakdale or Sonora or Fairfield, to find these cool stories and to do them.
Yeah.
Because while I do love covering professional sports, whether it's Kings or collegiate sports, Sac State, UC Davis, there's so much value in covering local sports.
Yeah.
I truly believe that covering local sports is imperative to being successful in local sports telling, because local sports is the fabric of what we do.
And it's the fabric of a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The pride of place.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So while I do cover professional sports and all that, my heart is covering local sports because it's so important. So
of the different teams you've covered, different sports stories, do you have a favorite?
Ooh, man, Aaron, that is such a good question. There's a lot to jump out. I mean, yes, obviously covering Super Bowls is amazing, and interviewing LeBron James and, covering basketball or Super Bowls, interviewing Patrick Mahomes and all, all of those things are cool. But one of my favorite stories I've ever told was just last year or the year before. There was a kid at Inderkum High School who underwent brain surgery.
I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boston Costley, a football player there, bright student, underwent 2 different brain surgeries. And which, as you know, obviously I'm no brain surgeon clearly, but is one of the most intricate surgeries out of all of them. I mean, open heart, everything. It is, there's no room for error when it comes into that. And this is a kid that had to go through that multiple times, and that took, that affected his mental health. That affected his physical health, obviously, and everything. And to go through all of that and still be able to put back on your pads and play football is one of the most strongest stories of resilience that I've ever seen.
I bet.
And you talk about overcoming adversity. This brother overcame a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then some. And it was really inspiring because it makes you think, we as individuals, there's things that we deal with all the time. There's adversity we deal with all the time. But I've never had somebody have to drill through my skull to go into my brain and to remove a tumor or something. So it kind of puts things in perspective when you are upset about something or you think that you have adversity, where there's a lot other things that could be going on. So it's stories like that that really resonate with me.
Yeah.
Because of what this particular individual has gone through. And I've done a few stories about that, like people have overcome. There was this story I did in Mountain House, and this kid, I forgot, is it Osgood? It's some disease that affects the eye, so he went blind.
Okay.
Osgood or Asgood. God, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, just stories like that these kids that are faced with these unbearable and unspeakable challenges, but due to their mental fortitude and resilient attitude are able to overcome that.
Yeah.
And the fact that communities really, those stories resonate with communities.
Yeah.
And it's stories like that that really tug on me because it realizes how important storytelling is.
Yeah, that's true.
And things like that. So those are the ones that come to memory.
Would you say those are also probably the most emotional stories, or are there others that come to mind where they just really got you?
I would honestly probably say the more emotional stories that I've done were when I was doing news.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're doing news, you sit down with mothers who just lost their child to street violence.
Yeah.
Or lost them to a fatal car accident or something. And, you know, I remember this one time I was doing the story on this mother whose son died. I think it was, he died. It was at the hands of a police officer. His officer involved shooting. And she was carrying on his legacy and a lot of things. And I just remember when I was sitting in her kitchen and doing the story with it, when she was reflecting on him and everything and just talking about him as a person, his character and things of that sort, she could not refrain from crying.
I bet.
And she just kept crying over and over and over again. And it's tough because still as a journalist, you're supposed to be professional. It's not your job to go there and be the therapist. Your job is to ask the questions and get everything across. But also as a journalist, you're a human being and you want to offer compassion and you want to be sensitive and stuff because we're still human beings before we're journalists.
Yeah.
And it was tough to be there. And while I'm there to get my story, it's also like I see a mother who's grieving and I see a mother who's going through a very difficult time in her life. And those kind of things are hard.
Yeah.
And those emotional stories are challenging. Like I remember another story I did that was emotional. It happened, I think, in Tracy or somewhere. And there was this kid, he's a special needs kid. And this kid was bullied by these other kids, and it was on camera.
Yeah.
And they had pushed him, and it smacked him up, and it was on camera. So I went to his home to speak to his mother, and she was talking about how her kid, he has special needs, intellectually challenged, but he was a nice kid, because I spoke to the kid as well, and to see him have to endure that is hard for me.
Yeah.
My mother was a special ed teacher, so I worked I volunteer in her classroom a lot, and one of the organizations I do work with is Best Buddies. So it's hard to see people ostracized or treated a certain type of way because of a disability or whatnot.
Yeah.
That's something that just really gets to me and breaks my heart. So it was hard to see that when covering that, and it was extremely pulled on my heart. So I would say that's probably another one that comes to mind.
So kind of along that same line, I know you and I traded an email about this, Kevin. You've been pretty open about your own issues with depression, and so do you mind just sharing a bit about how that's kind of manifested itself and what you've gone through to kind of overcome some of that?
Yeah. I think first things first, it's really cliche to hear this, and I'm going to preface it by saying that, but I think we need to understand that it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Particularly as men. And obviously depression affects everybody.
Yeah.
Men, women, children, adults. But as men, a lot of times, Aaron, we are taught to be tough. We are taught to not show emotion. We are told that showing emotion is a sign of weakness, not a sign of strength. Suck it up.
Yep.
Be strong.
Yeah.
Don't you dare come crying to me.
Right.
Tough it out.
Yeah.
So all throughout my life, that's what I was taught as a boy. That's what I was taught as a young man. So Aaron, I never truly embraced or confronted or, looked at trauma I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Or issues I was dealing with. I always tried to sweep it under the rug or tough it up or put on a facade that everything is okay because I did not want to appear weak. And it's something that's affected me my whole life. It got serious later on in my young adult life when I was experiencing a lot of trials and tribulations and heartbreak and, struggle, adversity. And the tough thing is, Aaron, I didn't know how to react to any of that because I was always taught to be tough.
Yeah.
And
you kind of keep pushing it down inside, right?
You keep pushing it down inside. And about 10 years ago, maybe a little less than that, like things just really started getting worse. And I was afraid to talk to them. And I had good male friends, but I was afraid to talk to them, Aaron, because, your male friends, you don't go and say, hey, man, I'm really struggling today. You talk about other things. You talk about sports.
Right.
You talk about girls. You talk about, how much money you're making and all these other things that men talk about.
Right. And it's all surface.
It's all surface. Mm-hmm. It's all surface, artificial. You never go deep with men. And Aaron, I was always one of the people in my friend group and circle. I was always the life of the party and the person that people came to cheer up. And so I always kind of took on that role. So I felt obligated to still always be that person to cheer people up and everything. So it was hard for me to take on the role of needing somebody else to cheer me up. I never wanted to be a burden to anybody, Aaron, because I was always the person that would take on other people's burdens and cheer other people up. So I was, you take on the fact that I'm trying to live up to this manly ideal, this masculine manly ideal that I think being a man is all about. Two, the fact that I didn't want to be a burden to anybody. Yeah. Three, the fact that I was so used to always being there for other people and not myself. And then four, mental health is something that was, at the time and maybe even now is taboo with sometimes people of color or African Americans or other minorities, It's kind of taboo there or with men. So it was just something I was like, no. I'm not going to embrace any of that stuff. And then it got really, really bad, Aaron. It got really, really bad. I was in a dark place. I started thinking of, it got to the point where I was thinking like I didn't want to live. So I was like, okay. Can I see donations? Is there anyone across the world that needs my blood type, that needs my organs?
Were you really?
Or something like that? Because I was like, okay, well, if I don't want to be on this earth anymore, I want somebody else to still be able to benefit from something I have, whether it's organs or blood or things of that sort. Yeah. So I'm starting to think about my exit strategy because I cannot pull myself out from this darkness that I was in. And it was just very, very difficult. And I had nobody really to talk to about it. Of course, I am a person of faith and I was trying to go to my faith about it, but even that wasn't really helping. Yeah. So I'm starting to think about all these things. And then I start thinking about ways to end my life. And Aaron, I don't think it was as much that I wanted to kill myself, and I'm going to be very clear on this. Yeah. It wasn't as much that I wanted to kill myself as much as I just didn't want to live. Yeah. Because the pain was unbearable and it was insurmountable. And it was just so hard for me to get out of bed every day. It was so hard for me to function every day. It was so hard. It was just such a massive and significant weight on me that it got to a point where I had more peace thinking about not living than I did living. That's tough. And it was hard, Aaron. Yeah. It was really, really, really hard. And I've never been to a place that dark before. But it took a lot for me to pull myself out of that. Like,
you didn't do that on your own, though, did you?
No. I did. I went to go seek help. Yeah. When I was really, really close to kind of, when I was really close to to pull the trigger on some stuff. Well, no pun intended.
Yeah,
excuse
right.
me. Shouldn't,
Right.
Yeah, bad pun
that's
there.
okay.
But when I was
it.
close to executing something, I just kept thinking, like, Kevin, God has you on this earth for a reason. God created you to do something.
Yeah.
You're giving purpose, even though right now you don't see your purpose. Even though right now it is there is a purpose. So there is a small, like maybe 5%, albeit, part of me that thought that, okay, maybe it is worth living after all, because maybe I do have a purpose. So I sought out some help. It took a lot though, because I was so ashamed to reach out to like therapists, psychiatrists, and things of that sort. Like it was so hard for me to do that. So I did that. I had called a suicide hotline and spoke to somebody there for like 45 minutes to an hour, probably longer than that. That was very embarrassing too. Like I was really embarrassed by that.
But that's a lot of courage. That took a lot of courage to do that. It really did.
Thank you for saying that. Cause it's to me, I was so ashamed, cause I'm like, Kevin, that's not strength.
Yeah.
That's not. So like, it was hard. So I had to pick myself up. So I started seeing this therapist, calling this hotline. I got involved with this group at the church that I was at.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I know there's a 5% chance, because 95% of me is thinking I'm going to give this 5%, and I'm going to just see how this goes over the next, 5 to 6 months. And if I don't start feeling better, or if nothing works, then I'm going to resort back to what I was thinking about beforehand.
Yeah.
So I started giving that an opportunity. I started trying to find things to enjoy. I started to look for things in life that I didn't. And one of those did come from, and this also may be one of the things that saved me, but, doing Big Brothers.
Yeah.
And giving back. Because see, like Aaron, another thing with me.
You hadn't started doing Big Brothers yet, had you?
Well, I did before in LA.
Got it.
Because I was with the chapter in LA before I started moving around. Mm-hmm. This was back in like 2008. And then when I moved to Sacramento, I did. But I had taken a break in between when I started it in LA. And then when I moved back to Sacramento and stuff like that. But, one of my favorite quotes of all time is, the best way to cheer up yourself is to cheer on somebody else. Mm-hmm. And once I got back involved in Big Brothers and started, because at this time, Aaron, remember, when I was going through all this, I didn't have a family. Yeah. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have children. I didn't have anybody. So it was like, I think that was something else that was kind of like feeling like I was endorsing it, because I was like, okay, well, I'm not leaving anybody behind. It's not like I have children who are dependent upon me. It's not like I have a wife who's dependent upon me. I don't have anybody. Right. So like, I think when you don't have dependents or something, that's what makes it more difficult, because it's like, well, how selfish is it if I don't have anybody who's depending on me? So during that time, I did try to throw myself into service and being of service. Yeah. And Big Brothers. Yeah. And, when you realize that being of service gives you purpose on earth, and helping out other people gives you purpose, it's a wonderful thing. Yeah. The great evangelist, Rick Warren, he has this quote that I really like, and he says, God determines greatness not by how many people serve you, but by how many people you serve. Yeah. And I think that's what true greatness is all about, is service. So during that time, I started finding ways to serve and to be of service in the community and whatnot. And, that gave me a sense of purpose. It's like, hey, if I can't serve myself, at least I can serve somebody else. Right. If I can't cheer up myself, at least I can cheer on somebody else. And I think those were things that helped me out during that particular point in time. Yeah. And, I did, and this is something else I'm ashamed to say, but I did get on medication as well to help out. Yeah. So there was all these things that I was trying to do, Aaron, when I was down there, like the initiatives I was taking to kind of help myself out. And I remember one time I was in this men's group, and I was telling them, like, it's the suicidal thoughts are coming back and things of that sort. And one of them, he was just like, remember, he said, one day at a time. And this guy was saying, take it one day. Put everything off a day.
Yeah.
Say, you know what? I'll put that off until tomorrow. And then tomorrow. Say, I'll put that off until tomorrow. So, which is not a good thing if you like to procrastinate. This is for other things, not procrastination. That's a whole other story.
Right.
But put something off until tomorrow.
Yeah.
And,
So you have something to look forward to.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think ultimately, when you lose yourself in the service of others, you forget about the problems that you have.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it was. And it was a slow process, Aaron, to get back up. You could fall down quickly, but sometimes it's hard to get back up after you fall. So I just had to, it was a process. It wasn't like 3 months I was perfectly fine or 6 months I was.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was a long process. And Aaron, I'm not going to lie. There's times I still do deal with depression. There's times that I still get down on things. Unfortunately, I haven't really been in a dark place like that since then. But, it's not like you overcome depression and all of a sudden your life is perfect.
Right.
Like, no, there's times I still, and I actually saw my therapist this morning. So I still have a therapist that I see weekly and I'll talk to about things. And I think if anything, I've become an advocate for mental health, Aaron, and especially men, because of what what society expects from us.
Yeah.
And that it's okay, to not be okay.
Well, I think, people that work in media get this, but I think people who don't, even sports, Kevin, it's a highly stressful job, right? And you've got rejection sometimes every day. People not wanting to call you, or people saying, "What? That was a stupid story. How come you did that?" Or you got haters out there, right? So how do you deal with that?
I'm really glad you asked that, Aaron, because the other day, this was about 2 weeks ago, right? I get this email from this guy, really negative.
Yeah.
Really negative. And he was like, he said something to the extent, and forgive me, it's not verbatim, but
that's okay.
He was like, Kevin, you need to turn it down a notch, man. You were just all over your energy. Are you on crack or are you on drugs? Like,
oh man,
God, he was like, you're difficult to watch or something like that. So it's interesting. One of the things I learned in life is giving people grace.
Yeah.
Not everybody that you meet is at a good space. And I know from someone who suffered from extreme mental health.
Yeah.
So I sent a message back to this guy and I said, hey, thank you for the feedback. I'm always open to feedback. I believe that viewer feedback is important because I'm here to serve the audience. I said, I'm sorry you're not a fan of my work, but I try to do the best that I can every time that I'm on air. And that's kind of just who I am as a person. I'm naturally gregarious. And I was like, I'm really excited to do a job that I love. And, a lot of times that joy and exuberance comes out. He writes me back literally like not more than 2 minutes later. And he says, oh man, I am so sorry, Kevin. Dude, you're a great person. Forgive me. I'm going through a bad time, but Kevin, you're a really nice person. Thank you, dude. I'm gonna tune into you every night. And I hit him back and I said, don't even worry about it, man.
Yeah.
I understand. It's easy to watch somebody and form an opinion. Don't no harm done. And then he writes me back again. He was like, man, thank you so much for saying that. I'm in a bad place right now, and it was just easy for me to attack you.
Yeah.
But so we just started talking back and forth on there. So I say this to say, how do I deal with haters and stuff like that? Like, give them grace.
I think that is a terrific example, because I remember a couple of years ago, a female reporter did the same thing with somebody that had did this like almost exactly with her, not the same words, but same situation. And she wrote back almost to the same tone, same kind of purpose. And the guy did the same thing. He said, oh, I'm sorry. I'm really going through a lot of stuff. It's easy for me to sit back here and knock you. And I know you're probably going through your own stuff. I think that's terrific. You're absolutely right. You got to give people grace because you don't know where they're coming from. You just don't know.
100%, Aaron. And I think that's what really comes with just having compassion for people.
Yeah.
Everybody's at a different level. Like, there's this meme that I've seen, and I'm sure a lot of people have seen it out there, but it shows all these cars on a freeway.
Yeah.
And over each car it says something. It says, this person just suffered a miscarriage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This person just lost their mother. This person, so it's all these different things.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you never know what somebody is going through.
Yeah.
And that's why even if someone does come at me rude or disrespectfully or calls me names or calls me out my name or stuff, I still just show them grace because I'm like, I don't know where they're at. And plus, in this day and age, we have a lot of what we call keyboard warriors.
Yes.
People that will sit and say all kinds of mean things.
Yeah.
But then when you address it or they change their tune. So I think that's just a good message in life is like, be kind to people.
Yeah.
Have compassion for people. Show people grace because you don't know what they're going through. And I'm sure
Absolutely.
there may be a time in my life, Aaron, or a time in your life when we're down and out and we need someone to show us grace.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's just one way to do it.
So you've done something else too with your life, which is you went back to school, got a master's degree, and now you're teaching. So what's that teaching like?
Oh, man.
Especially if you think about what you were like as a student in college, and now you're teaching college students. So,
I know, right? Full circle moment, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm the professor in front of class.
Yeah.
Aaron, it is such a rewarding feeling, man.
Yeah.
It is such a rewarding feeling. Not to say that I don't get fulfilled or rewarded doing the work that I do as a broadcast journalist. Because I gave you examples earlier in this on how I've done stories that have been really rewarding and compelling. But there's, I have so much respect and admiration for teachers, educators, administrators, because there's no profession on this earth, Aaron, where you get an opportunity every single day to have an impact on a student and to influence them in a positive manner or to sow into their lives. And that's the thing that academia gives me. It gives me an opportunity to have that impact and mentorship. Aaron, I think about when I first started in this career. It was difficult because I got into this career later in life.
Yeah.
I reached out to so many people, Aaron, on LinkedIn, mentors, all these people. I didn't hear back from a lot. I didn't have a mentor. I had to struggle and fight and claw my way to get a job in this because I didn't have anybody to show me how to do it.
Yep.
So I always told myself, man, if I ever made it into this industry, I want to be able to pay it forward. And I think teaching is one of those things that has given me that opportunity. A lot of my students will shadow me in the field. They'll shadow me at Golden One Center, shadow me at football games and stuff.
Yeah.
And they'll come out and see what it's like. Because one thing for me to teach it to them in class and go into the studio that we have on there on campus, but it's another thing for them to see it in action.
Yeah.
When I'm in the field, when they see me having to shoot, having to write, having to edit my stuff, having to send it back. Everything that comes with being an MMJ, multimedia journalist. So I want them to see that. And it's given me an opportunity to mentor a lot of my students. And this is only my second year doing it.
Yeah.
And I've already had students who have landed jobs in journalism, which is like,
oh man,
that makes you feel like a proud parent.
Oh yeah.
One of my students last year landed a job and I had him come and speak to my class this year. As I was like, look, just a year ago, he was one of you guys sitting in there. Now he's out working for his respective publication as a print journalist, and just goes to show that you guys can do it. So it is now, that is a fun aspect. On the other side of that, Aaron, it is a lot.
Yeah.
Because doing my job full time and then doing that is a lot.
Are you teaching one class?
Yeah, it's one class, 2 days,
still.
2 days a week.
Yeah.
And my office hours are technically every day because my students are able to reach out to me via Zoom or things of that sort. But yeah, it's and it's a mixture of lecture and lab, what they call, meaning the studio that we go to, audio booth, and in-class lectures. But you have lesson planning, you have grading, all these things that go with it. So yes, it is time consuming and it is a lot, but at least it's a rewarding time.
Well, I think that's important. I mean, with regard to the students then, Kevin, how are you preparing them for the reality of what they will expect when they, just like there's going to be rejection, there's going to be hundreds of resumes they're going to have to send out. How are you preparing them for the reality of what they have to expect?
The main way is I'm trying to prepare their mentalities. And what I say by that is having a strong, rabid mental fortitude on everything that you do.
Yeah.
Being able to be resilient in the face of rejection. Because I told them, I said, look, 90% of you guys are not going to get the first job that you apply for.
Yeah.
You probably may not get the first 10 jobs that you apply for. That's just the nature of this business.
Yeah.
And I tell them, because some of them in there want to do sports, and I say for sportscasting, it's even slimmer versus if you're trying to be a news producer or a reporter or, a director, one of the other jobs within a news. I always say if you're, on air, particularly sports, it's even a smaller window because there's not as many.
There's only a couple of you per market, if that.
Thank you.
Sometimes there's one.
Sometimes there's one.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell them, like, you got to realize how rare those jobs are. So one of the things, Aaron, I keep it real with them. And that's one of the nice things about me currently working in this field and teaching is I know what the latest trends are.
Yeah.
I know how the industry is evolving and where it's at. So I keep it real with them.
Yeah.
I'm honest with them about everything. You'd say, hey, yeah, things are looking grim here. Make sure that you have a strong digital presence.
Yeah.
Make sure that you know how to incorporate your reports into digital journalism and things of that sort. And I tell them so I keep it real with them. I don't sugarcoat anything. And I tell them about the challenges of working in this business and whatnot. You know, it's funny. I was talking to a good friend of mine. He works in the LA market. He's a sports reporter for LA, but he was out here this weekend to cover UCLA and March Madness at Golden One. And he was saying, you know, my kids are interested in doing this, but I would never want one of my kids or encourage them to enter this field and to do what I do. He'd said that straight up.
Yeah.
And he was like, I would discourage them to do this because, and it was, you know, it's interesting he said that. And he used it as an example of like, I know how challenging this field is right now. I know all the changes that's going on. Heck, Tegna was just bought by Nexstar. They're supposed to consolidate stations.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going to happen with layoffs and all this other stuff. So I tell them all that stuff. I say, look, this industry is really facing an uncertain future. Jobs can be eliminated. AI is taking over.
Yeah.
And stuff. So one of the things that I tell them is like, look, there's always going to be a space for good journalism. Journalism will never die. Now, the way that we present journalism, the way that it's done is going to change and evolve, but good journalism will never die. So I always tell them, you know, always focused on being great at what you do.
Yeah.
Always focus on being your best version, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to distinguish you from 100 other candidates, whatever it is that you do well. So I always just say, control what you can control. Focus on what you can focus on. Be the best that you can be. Try to break down every script, everything that you do from every crack, crevice, every angle. Don't leave anything unturned.
Yeah.
So one of my things that I really encourage and instill in them is to try to be as close to a perfectionist as you can at your craft and to hone your craft as much as you can. So when an opportunity does come your way, it's like the quote, luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
That's a good one.
So I always say that. Make sure you're as prepared. So when an opportunity does come, but also know too, the landscape is changing. You know, willing to create your own brand and whatnot. So it's a lot.
Do you think most of them get that?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I think for some of them it kind of resonates and but I also think some of them are like, you know, because remember, they haven't quite quote unquote hit the real world yet. So
what year in college are most of them?
Well, it's funny you say that. I've had students from 18 to 82.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No lie.
Yeah.
Like every semester, you know, I have, and I say every semester, it's only my fourth semester, but I've had a wide range from students, you know, in their teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and 80s. For the most part, I would say probably 60 to 70% of my students are college age.
Yeah.
When I say college age, between like 18 and 25 or something like that, are the vast majority of my students are.
Yeah.
But I do have parents in there. I had a kid last semester with 6 kids. Well, I say kid because he's, you know, he was in his 30s or 40s.
Okay.
All of them are kids to me.
Yes.
The 80-year-old, I would call him a kid, jokingly around. It's funny because the 82-year-old was probably the most charismatic kid that I had in the class. But yeah, and that's the thing about community college where I teach. There's people at all different walks of life and all different levels, but the majority of them are younger. Yeah. When I would say, you know, so sometimes with some of them, they don't understand, you know, the real world yet. But it's my job to make sure they are as prepared as possible, because as you know, with these jobs, like, it's not like when you major in something in school and it's not like you graduate on Friday and then you get a job on Monday. Like,
no,
it's all about you being self-sufficient, ambitious, tenacious. And I tell them about that. I actually have a unit where I teach how to find a job. And
Oh,
we
that's
go
great.
through everything about how to send out resumes, how
Yeah.
to put your reel together, how to send out emails to where you want to work, and all of these things work that they have to do in order to find the job.
Yeah.
Because some people just think jobs come to them. Oh, I got this piece of paper, a degree, and boom, I'm going to just land a big job.
Right.
No. I wish it were like
So
that.
when you look then out into the industry, Kevin, are there any sports people you look up to and say, boy, that's what I want to achieve, or that's what I want to get to?
My biggest inspiration growing up was Stuart Scott. God rest his soul, because he passed away at 49 with, I think it was
boy.
pancreatic cancer.
Really?
But he was a sports center anchor on ESPN.
Okay.
And he truly revolutionized what we know as the modern sports anchor.
Yeah.
He was somebody who was unapologetically himself.
Yeah.
He never shied away from being his authentic self on air. And everything that I've done in this field has been inspired by him.
Really?
When I say that, like, where I incorporate humor into some of my sports reports, personality, sayings, and stuff like that. Like, he was one of those people that really raised the bar and blazed the trail.
Yeah.
For what we see as a sports anchor. So Stuart Scott was one of my idols growing up. I love Scott Van Pelt.
Yeah.
He's on ESPN, just
Yep.
so good at what he does. His ability to connect to an audience, but also be conversational, and
Yeah.
his knowledge of sports. Jay Harris, he's also a Sports Center anchor. He was one of the first people when I was emailing all these people. When I got my first job in Arkansas, I would email him and send him some clips and whatnot while he was at ESPN, and he would give me feedback. So these are all kind
that's
of
great.
people
Yeah.
I looked up to,
Yeah.
and was inspired by their work.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, this has been great. I really appreciate you sharing some very personal aspects of your life. I think it's been worthwhile. I'm going to have you come back again.
Aaron, I would love to come back.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I
Yeah.
enjoyed this.
Good.
Anytime I can, share my story or disclose it, which is something I've been private with a lot, but, I know that's what makes us stronger,
Yeah.
is what we've overcome. And I feel that we're truly defined not by our past, but what we are, how we're able to overcome that and, become better. So I appreciate you having me here.
Well, I
it's
appreciate
so
being
good
here.
seeing you.
You
I
too.
love what you're doing,
Thank
Aaron.
you.
And you keep up
Likewise.
the good work, my friend.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. That's it for this episode of Lights, Camera, Learn. You can catch all of the episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, and our secctv.org website. And you can help support us on Patreon by clicking Lights, Camera, Learn. Until the next episode, make it a great day. Thank you.